Good Tuesday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Plenty of Browns to talk about. Still no word on the appeal of Deshaun Watson's suspension. Stephen A. Smith on ESPN's First Take on the timing of Watson's apology, and that was before the Browns' first preseason game on Friday.
There's a perfectly logical explanation why you didn't get this apology sooner. The man had 24 cases of sexual misconduct levied against him. Anybody that's got a lawyer knows that your lawyer's going to tell you to shut up, let them do the talking, say absolutely positively nothing to incriminate yourself while the case is ongoing.
Yeah.
So to hear people out there going off about we haven't seen any contrition, we hadn't heard any remorse or anything, well, those things come attached with a level of guilt that you don't want to embrace if you've got 24 cases against you.
Yeah, it's an admission of guilt.
So once it's done, now you can address it in a manner that some would have liked you, or most would have liked you to have addressed it earlier. So I was never fazed by the fact that he didn't say anything earlier, because anybody that's ever had a lawyer, regardless of what the case is, your first thing your lawyer is telling you is to shut the hell up and let them do the talking.
Right.
Having said all of that, here's the bottom line. You can look at it as an admission of guilt. He has been on the record when his lawyer told him he could speak about it, categorically denying it. Very few people on earth believe him, because where there's smoke, there's fire. If it walk like a duck and quack like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. You got 25 different women coming at you, accusing you of the same behavior. You're going to be hard-pressed to find anybody who believes that you were completely as innocent as you're claiming to be.
Again, a valid point by Stephen A. Smith relative to the timing of it, where you have all the litigation pending. You don't want to, for lack of a better term, admit guilt. Interesting they're on a boat there out at sea. Mike Florio, Chris Sims, Pro Football Talk on the change in Watson's team and that position, that stance, and how it may affect his potential suspension on the appeal ruling from the NFL.
Now that they've had this turn where they've gone from attack, remember, Rusty Harden, who has represented Deshaun Watson throughout most of this mess, said, all the women are lying. All the women are lying. Well, if they're all lying, what's he apologizing for? Who's he expressing regret to if they're all lying? He's still the victim of this vast conspiracy where 23 people have been banded together by an unscrupulous lawyer who is manipulating these women into telling lies about Deshaun Watson, or at a minimum embellishing and exaggerating. That was the thing all along. Look, I've had plenty of difficult telephone conversations with people close to Watson in the past 16 months.
I know you
where
have.
There's indignation, anger and indignation directed at me. Why aren't you exposing these lies? Why aren't you delving into the background of these individuals and exposing the inconsistencies in the stories? Why aren't you? Right? I hear that shit all the time, or at least I used to.
Yeah.
I don't hear it anymore for some reason.
Right. I was thinking really we're going to have a full year of Deshaun Watson suspension, and Cleveland needed to call the 49ers and trade Jimmy Garoppolo. If it was a full year, that's what they got to do. 8, 10 games, okay, I probably don't trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. But a full year with that football team, you do it. So now we're back into the mode of, it does seem like it could be 10, 12, 8 games with a significant money fine, financial fine.
Again, that is Chris Sims relative to what the likely outcome of this appeal will be at this point. All right, Chris Sims and Phil Sims on Unbuttoned on how Deshaun Watson was used in that first preseason game, as well as the Browns' quarterback situation moving forward.
If you're the coach, then let's set this thing up, because we know what he's going into here and what he's dealing with and all that. Well, let's just make sure we game plan it up and give him a chance to really get that out of the way and all that. I don't know. That's just me. You psychologically, you got to think about the players too, but who knows what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson. I don't know when this final verdict's going to come down, but I think, too, if you're Cleveland, you got to start playing these other guys more. And
They
get
are.
Jacoby Brissett ready,
It is.
which
Yeah.
I know they are.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are. They even said, Stefanski said, I think after the game that this week that his reps, Watson's reps will be cut back, and Jacoby Brissett's going to be getting the starting team reps, and they're going to really ramp up his work here going into game one. So, which
I'd
makes
let
it even.
Jacoby Brissett throw about 35 passes this week.
Yeah, right.
And 20 of them will be game planners.
Right.
And just let's go. Let him get some confidence. Turn the team over to him and give him a chance to be the leader. Listen, he's big, strong, he's got a good arm, and he's tougher than hell.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a team player and all that, and I love it. Last year, I'm not saying he played great at Miami, but oh my God, did he play tough.
Yes.
And he made a lot of big throws. So give him a chance and get his butt ready when you go into the season. Everybody knows he's the man, and give him a lot of reps.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's welcome in Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. And Tim, doesn't sound like Brissett's going to play in the second preseason game. He will get the reps with the team in those joint practices with the Eagles. We've seen this in the past. I feel a little differently, though, when it's a guy who has not been on the field in a game situation with this offense.
Yeah, I think that might be a thing that they need to at least consider for this Sunday, this preseason game number 2. Definitely should play preseason game number 3. It would be weird considering, the expectation was that Jacoby Brissett was going to be the backup for most of the season, that all of a sudden he doesn't get the first team reps in a live game situation until they go to Carolina on September 11th for the start of the season. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but the reality of what's going to happen with this week is the joint practices that the Browns are going to have with the Eagles, they're probably going to be more meaningful than the games. That's going to be close to a game-type atmosphere. We've seen these joint practices usually get heated. They get physical because the teams are sick of seeing each other, and they're all trying to fight for, roster spots. They're all trying to put good tape out there. And I think there's the eagerness to go up against somebody different that you haven't practiced against after practicing against your own guys for 3 or 4 straight weeks or whatever these teams have done. So I think in that way, Jacoby Brissett getting most of these first team reps in those 2 practices is going to be vital. I think he's going to have to get some reps, with the ones, whether it's this second preseason game or whether it's the final preseason game, because you can't have him not get any live reps with the ones until you go to Carolina. I know the Panthers, are not the best team the Browns are going to play this season, but it's still a decent NFL team. It's still a decent defense he's going to have to play against. He's going on the road, so he's going to have to get used to that, and you're going to have to play at full speed. I mean, we saw what happened with Deshaun Watson. That practice speed is one thing. Game speed is something completely different.
Yeah, and the other thing is I get the thought that this controlled practices, it minimizes injuries. And the last thing you want is Brissett getting injured. But I am concerned that he will not have had reps in a game if, in fact, they do ramp it back and don't get him in the second or third preseason game. All right, before Browns practice today, Browns players with a little bit of a surprise as we take a look. They have the Rhodes High School team there, and you see Anthony Walker kind of calling them over. And the Browns, a surprise, Rhodes from the Senate League, brand new helmets. And you see the players there excited about it, shiny new helmets, logo on them. So a good job there by the Browns, giving the Cleveland Municipal School District Rhodes High School new helmets. Some other news from out at Browns camp, Tim, as well, is cut down day. No real big surprise. Well, I guess maybe one, as tackle Sheldon Day was waived. Also, an injury designation with Elijah Nakansa, he was waived. They did put a couple of guys on IR, and they got down to the mandated 85 rosters. Take a look at this tweet from Jack Duffin. That's our salary cap guy. The way that Day's contract was structured, only had $25,000 guaranteed. Going to be tough for him to make the team. And we'll go one more tweet before we get back to you here. Some interesting news. So Cade York, 4th round rookie, wins the Maurice Bassett Award as the top rookie in camp. So you see Harris and Dawson, 2 of the centers, placed on IR as well. That's how they get down to 85. But Cade York, a kicker, is the most impressive rookie in camp. Don't think that has ever happened before. but probably deserved it. I believe I saw it was 28 of 30 and has been hitting 55-yarder pluses with regularity.
Yeah, and it's just the type of kicker the Browns have been looking for since Phil Dawson, maybe even going way, way further back than that. A guy who can not only hit kicks with regularity, but as we've seen in the NFL, you need to have a guy who is pretty reliable from distance. We're talking 50 to 60, and maybe even needing him to kick a 61-yard field goal at some point. I mean, we knew coming in to the NFL that Cade York had the leg, but it's good for the Browns that he's been as accurate as advertised. He's been pretty much what they've expected him to be as a kicker. Now the only thing I think left for him is just to prove it in full game situations, regular season situations. That's the same for every player. I mean, every player's got to go prove it when you're a rookie. You got to show that you're worth the investment. But so far, so good. He's done, it seems like, everything that he's been asked to do. And I'm curious, going forward, what kind of impact he has, because with Deshaun Watson suspended for at least the first 6 games of the season, these games are going to be a lot closer, and you're going to need your kicker to come through in some clutch moments. So I'm curious how Cade York does in his first true situation, when it's the end of the half, you're trying to get points before the end of the half, or even at the end of the game to try and send a game in overtime or possibly win it for you. How does he do in those situations? Because that's the true mark of when you have a really elite kicker, is way more often than not they can go and get that done.
Yep, and look what Evan McPherson did for the Bengals last year, their Super Bowl run. Browns are hoping York can be that kind of guy. All right, let's take a look back out on the field, training camp. Final day of camp where fans are allowed, and there is Isaiah Thomas, cast on hand, had a couple of sacks. It's good, though, that he's up, moving around and participating. Another good sign, Denzel Ward participating in drills. Jacoby Brissett hooking up with Anthony Schwartz on the long pass. It's a good sight. He struggled in that preseason game. Here's another one. Take a look at Mike Harley. Goes up and makes a really nice contested catch, however, out of bounds. I think we're going to see some of this this season is Kareem Hunt on the sweep. But again, the final day of camp, as fans allowed in for the last time. So, Tim, all in all, best thing you saw there, it's good for Anthony Schwartz. He needs to get past that first preseason game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for him, I think it's a confidence thing, because certainly he's shown at times throughout practice that he can make those plays. Just a matter of going out and doing it when the games are live and when they count for something. Obviously, Friday night was a brutal night for him with all those drops. If he holds on to one or two of those passes, it helps Deshaun Watson out. It helps him establish some confidence, in that preseason game, instead of going 1 for 5. If it's maybe 2 for 5 or 3 for 5, if you're the Browns, you're probably feeling a lot better about Watson knocking that rust off. So I think Schwartz is just kind of a player that they need to manage his confidence a little bit, make sure that he's feeling good, that he's not thinking too much, that he's not getting down on himself, because it's clear the Browns are going to need him. I know he's going to be the 4th receiver, probably behind Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and David Bell, but there's going to be a point where the Browns need him this season, where they need him to make a play. And it's just going to come down to, is he going to be able to kind of block out some of the negativity that's kind of happened to him in his career, obviously ending up on the wrong end of that play where he cut that route short on the interception that led to Baker Mayfield injuring his shoulder. How can he move past that and continue to go forward? Because it's clear he's got tools. I mean, he's got elite speed. He knows what he can do with the football in his hands. It's just a matter of, just kind of getting past that mental block. I think if he does, there might be something there with him.
Yeah, I agree. You need his speed to stretch the defense, and doesn't have to catch them all. He's got to catch enough of them that the defense wants to know where he is. Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Also hear from Denzel Ward, Sports from CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Deshaun Watson and his contract.
Hello, my name is Frank Page. I live in Copperas Cove, Texas, and I'm a very Cleveland Browns fan. I was just wondering if the NFL is worried about the big contract that Deshaun Watson has, why don't the Browns just renegotiate the contract and make it not a guaranteed contract? This way it might help them out a little bit. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Well, Tim, the thing is, Watson's contract is guaranteed. You can't just kind of redo that portion of it. Reason, it's not necessarily the league, it's the other owners. And if you want to know why they're concerned about it, Lamar Jackson is due a contract, and he wants huge guarantees. So that's kind of where it sits, and the Ravens may not get that contract done, which would, if they don't get the extension done, you'd have to franchise them, and then it leads into a lot of financial issues for the Ravens relative to Lamar Jackson's contract. But it's kind of that it sets a benchmark for guaranteeing quarterback contracts.
Yeah, I mean, you get the feeling it was a matter of time before one of these quarterbacks was going to get a fully guaranteed contract. Just so happens that's the price the Browns had to pay to make the Deshaun Watson trade happen, was to redo his deal and make sure it was $230 million fully guaranteed. It's the price of getting the deal done and make sure he got him to Cleveland and get him convinced that maybe, even though he ruled out Cleveland initially, that this was the place for him. And obviously, like you said, it just sets a tricky precedent when maybe, owners aren't ready to fork out fully guaranteed contracts. I mean, you talked about Lamar Jackson, obviously, he's due for a big contract. You'll look elsewhere. Joe Burrow, he's going to be doing a massive contract pretty soon. Justin Herbert's going to be doing a massive contract pretty soon. So those are the three quarterbacks I think they're going to be the next ones to watch in this quarterback market, because they're the ones that are going to be due big second contracts pretty soon. I know the Cardinals didn't give Kyler Murray a fully guaranteed contract. I'm kind of surprised it didn't come to that, but you kind of get the feeling based on this Watson deal, one of those three is gonna probably have to get the fully guaranteed deal, and they probably can go their owner be like, well, Deshaun Watson's getting a fully guaranteed deal. Why aren't I getting it when I'm playing? Especially if you're Joe Burrow, like, I just took my team to the Super Bowl. Deshaun Watson's won one playoff game. Why can't I get a fully guaranteed contract? So I mean, I think it's, again, the reality that this was going to happen at some point. It just happened to be in this particular case that maybe the NFL, some of the other owners are disappointed because the Browns gave this contract to Deshaun Watson, who hadn't played last season, who's going to miss at least 6 games this year, possibly more, and had to probably pay a significant fine as a result of his violations of the code of conduct.
All right, Denzel Ward back on the field, practicing, hoping to get into team drills and kind of ease back into things. Ward talked about his injury as well as getting back onto the field.
Sore foot. Just a sore foot.
Were you worried that it was anything more serious than it turned out to be?
Nah, not too worried. I mean, I'm usually pretty good with it. Usually I'm out a couple weeks maybe, but I mean, I wasn't too worried about it. Just got to get on treatment and then get back.
At this stage of your career, do you find you not needing a lot of prep time for the season?
I mean, I always need that preparation, and I wish I could be out there more to get those reps on the field. But I mean, I was still taking my mental reps and watching those guys practice, and then still going through the calls and everything. So yeah, I didn't get the on-field reps I would have liked, but I think I'll still be good once I get back and going.
Speaking of the other guys, you've been able to watch them now for a couple of weeks. What's your impression of the quarterback room?
Man, they've been looking good. I mean, you seen MJ take it back to the house in the first preseason game. So I mean, all those guys been looking good. AJ, Greedy, Greg. So everybody's making plays out there and doing their job.
And Tim, that's the thing. The secondary looked really good, and it was basically the reserves playing, which shows you how deep this secondary is.
Yeah, no doubt. Corner is definitely one of the better positions on the Browns. I mean, we saw what Martin Emerson did, in that first preseason game. Again, you got to couch it by saying it's the preseason. Doesn't always mean a lot, but the fact that like Denzel was talking about it, he's seen the other guys in practice. AJ Green, Greedy Williams, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson stepping up, playing well, practicing well throughout the first few weeks of camp. It shows that the Browns, they have this depth at corner that Andrew Berry's been trying to work on and been trying to build, against this pass-heavy AFC, where you're going to have a multitude of good corners to throw out there every single week against some really good quarterbacks, really good receivers. And this is his answer, is stocking the secondary with as many good corners as you can find, as many guys that can go one-on-one if you need to, as many guys as can kind of break up passes, make it harder for quarterbacks to find their open receivers out there. This is kind of the model that the Browns are trying to build. Obviously, you need Denzel Ward out there to really maximize it, and it's good for the Browns that he's back. He obviously, considering he's a veteran, doesn't always need those reps. It's all things considered, but important to get him back out there, important to get him up to game speed, because with Deshaun Watson suspended for at least the first 6 games, you're going to need all hands on deck right away.
Yeah, without question. And along those lines, Pro Football Focus Team of the Week and awards. The Rookie of the Week goes to Martin Emerson. MJ, as they call him, 93.1 PFF grade. Playing with first-team defense, put forth an impressive Week 1 effort. Rookie third-rounder, beaten deep on his first target, but settled in, allowed 2 catches on 5 targets, and he came away with the pick 6 where he just ripped it away from the receiver. All in all, he looks like a guy that if you need to put him out there, you should feel pretty good about him playing.
Definitely. I mean, not just an interception. Like you said, he literally stole the ball out of the hands of the receiver. That's a tough thing to do. That shows you just how strong he is. I mean, he's a bigger corner, we see with guys like Greedy Williams, bigger corner. Greg Newsome's got a little size to him. Martin Emerson, same kind of deal. And I think this is this kind of the ideal situation for a guy like Emerson. He's a guy who can play if needed, but right now you kind of have him as the 4th or 5th corner on the depth chart, depending on where he and AJ Green kind of stand. And if you can kind of work him in slowly, as a rookie, put him in positions to be successful, you could have something there. And there's a lot to like about him. There's a reason the Browns got him in the 3rd round. They made him their first pick despite, all the passing up, missing the chance on all those receivers. Clearly there's some they like, and he's shown it in camp, showed it obviously in that first preseason game. I'm fascinated to kind of see what he does going forward, because again, you look at, the next couple of years. I mean, you're not going to be able to keep everybody. Greedy Williams, free agent pretty soon. And with the injury issues that Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome have had in their careers, you can't have enough depth at corner. And Emerson showed you he has the ability to get some things done, and possibly pretty early in his NFL career.
Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will turn our attention to the wide receivers and the offense. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Maybe cliche, but there's no I in team. The only identity that matters is we. The collective effort to love thy neighbor is needed now more than ever. The responsibility behind pronouns such as I, me, and mine impact we, us, and ours. So understand that you make all the difference in the team. He, him, her, or she can't disturb our peace, since we control our destiny as student athletes. This is the power of pronouns.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tim Bielik and I continue talking Browns. This one is from the Bleacher Report. Every NFL team's biggest X factor heading into the 2022 season for the Browns, they say David Bell. Browns are expected to be a run-oriented offense centered around Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. However, they need a functional passing game to complement it if they hope to contend in the talent-rich AFC North. Bell, as a reliable target in the slot, would go a long way towards being that functional passing game. Tim, I agree wholeheartedly. Somebody's got to step up and be the guy that can catch it underneath and make contested catches.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw, how difficult it was for the Browns to throw in that preseason game in Jacksonville without Amari Cooper and without David Bell. We'd be curious to see how much time Bell gets in these last two preseason games. But, when we've seen the highlights of him, he's making good short area catches. He's very quick and elusive. He's able to create separation, which I think is so paramount in the NFL, especially when it comes to slot receivers. We've seen Jarvis Landry make a career out of it. We've seen Hunter Renfrow really become one of the NFL's most underrated receivers because of his ability to do that. If David Bell could be anywhere close to either of those guys, the Browns will have kind of what they're looking for as far as a slot receiver. And I think that's where David Bell functions best. I mean, he had a high volume of catches at Purdue throughout his career when healthy. We go back to the Iowa game. I mean, he was completely uncoverable, and we know how historically good Iowa is defensively, so it tells you a lot about David Bell's talent. I think he's a guy, that now that he's back at practice, now that he's continuing to get reps, I think he's got a chance to hit the ground running and have a couple nice plays right away and kind of be that guy who's going to maybe not going to rack up a ton of yards, but get about 5-6 catches a game and just be productive, maybe not too long into his career.
Yeah, move the chains with guys like that. Anthony Schwartz, talked about him a little bit last segment. Schwartz on the tough start to the preseason and just trying to get things turned around.
It was a pretty rough night, Things didn't go the way that we planned to. Things definitely didn't go the way I planned it to, but, it's first game, it's the preseason. You're just supposed to learn from each game, and I just take that and just dump it onto the next one.
How do you recover from that? Do you just pile up good days of practice, or?
Pretty much you just kind of say, okay, that happened, and now dump it onto the next one. You got to improve on, and you know what you got to improve on, and the practice every day, just improve on what you did there, improve on, get better each day.
Was Deshaun encouraging you after those rough plays? Did he say anything?
Yeah, he encouraged me. He's a good guy, telling me that just keep on going. We got you. I made sure to tell him this is on me, and then he said, "No, we got you. I'm still coming to you. I trust in you." And it's very still instills more confidence, instills more motivation. He still wants to come to me still, and it's just a great feeling. And I know I got to get better.
That had to be really good to hear, especially in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment, everything could be either better than it is or worse than it is. So it just kind of, I just felt down, and then he just came to me and said, "We got you. I'm still coming to you." And it just felt really good. It kind of uplifted me a little bit and just helped me even more to know what I got to work on.
And again, Tim, the guy like Anthony Schwartz, for this offense, he needs to be able. The defense needs to want to know where he is and to fear him, because that will open up a little bit more for the running backs as well. They need him. He's a guy that can stretch the defense, and they need that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why they drafted him last year, was for that, world-class speed that he has. And I said it when he got drafted that this was going to be the year we kind of find out who Anthony Schwartz is, because I figured anything you got in 2021 as a rookie was going to be a bonus, but this is the year for him to show something. And maybe he's one of those guys that really needs to have a big play happen in a game for him to really rediscover some of that confidence. I mean, he's getting it done in practice. We saw that long ball he caught from Jacoby Brissett in those camp videos that you had earlier in the show. So it's clear he can make those plays. It's clear he has that talent. It's just going out and doing in game situations. And sometimes maybe that's a hurdle for young players, is kind of establishing the confidence that you feel like you belong in the National Football League. Maybe we thought Anthony Schwartz was showing it after that Chiefs game, but after, like I said, the interception in the Texans game when he cut the route short, it seemed like he wasn't the same. So maybe he just one of those guys that needs something to go his way on the field to really kind of reestablish it. And I think if he can hit one of those deep balls, if he can get one of those 70-yard touchdown receptions, that's when I think you can kind of start to see those defenses start to respect that a little more and have to pay attention, knowing that this guy's got the ability anytime he's on the field to get those big plays. He's going to have to get one of them, I think, before defenses really start to respect that, though. He's got the talent. It's just a matter of going out and getting it done when the lights are bright. Yep,
and the Browns definitely need that facet to the offense. All right, top 10 running back rotations in the NFL according to CBS Sports. Not a surprise here. Browns are number 1, Colts 2, Vikings 3. Cleveland's line has something to do with this, but Chubb and Hunt are undeniable talents on their own. The former has averaged over 5 yards a carry. That's Hunt. That is Chubb, rather. 5 yards a carry in all 4 of his NFL seasons. Hunt, meanwhile, even shiftier, good hands, making him a 1B. And then you add in Dearness Johnson and Jerome Ford, and they probably have 2A and 2B as well. I don't see any reason not to use all 4. Use all 4 of them, keep everybody fresh, and run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball.
Yeah, especially early in the season until Deshaun Watson comes back. And even when he comes back, to keep doing it just to kind of knock some of the rust off. I mean, we saw in that game in Jacksonville, he's got some rust to knock off. I mean, it's not surprising. I kind of alluded to the fact that a while ago that maybe don't expect him to throw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns right away. He's got to get back to playing at full speed. And that's where I think these running backs will help him. And we've seen Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt miss some time lately with injuries. So having guys like Dearness Johnson who have experience is going to be helpful. And we saw Jerome Ford really kind of announce himself in that preseason game Friday night. Had the 41-yard reception, had a couple touchdowns. The 41-yard run, had a couple touchdowns, beg your pardon. But, he's got ability. I mean, he was a very talented running back in Cincinnati. He was a key part of why the Bearcats made the college football playoff, got some talent, and he's had a good training camp. He's shown that I think he can get some things done at the NFL level. How much of an impact he has might be limited because of who's in front of him, especially if those 3 guys stay healthy, just because they have the experience. And obviously, if they want to have success early, they're going to need Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to be productive and healthy early on, because if those 2 guys are rolling at the level that everybody knows that they can be, the Browns can still have a very productive offense. And we've seen teams like the Ravens and the Eagles show that you can win plenty of regular season games by running the football more than you throw it.
Yeah. At some point in time in a game, though, you're going to have to make a key pass in order to keep drives going or to score. And that's all you need Jacoby Brissett to do. Come up with 3 or 4 key completions at the correct time, and then the offense will run like it wants to. Tim Bielik and I are going to take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Plus, one thing we learned about each and every team in the NFL. We'll tell you what CBS Sports says we learned about the Browns. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Tim Bielik and I continue talking Browns, so we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Deshaun Watson.
I'm sure you guys are getting bombarded with a whole bunch of Deshaun Watson talk. You do have one thing to say. The most important thing is that these talking heads like Mike Florio, Rich Eisen, all of these guys are selling a narrative about who will be the Browns quarterback for the foreseeable future. There's not much talk about football outside of that. As you can tell, we're in the preseason. I just want to make sure that you guys as well are making sure that a narrative's not being sold, that it literally is about football. Once these guys get on the field and start to play, once we figure out what Watson's situation is going to be, it's all going to be about how he performs on the field. The rest of that off the field stuff is going to melt away, all depending upon the way Deshaun plays. And I just really hope, for the sake of Cleveland fans everywhere, the ladies involved and Deshaun involved, that everybody can move on and that we can start watching football in an enjoyable way again. Love to see Cleveland win a championship in 23 or 24. Thank you, guys.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Tim, I would say I agree, but right now, what Deshaun Watson's availability is very important to what the football is going to look like. You can't decide what the football is going to look like in 2023 until you know how many games you have Deshaun Watson for.
Yeah, and it's going to be important for him if he's able to play this season to get those reps in, to, again, knock the rust off and look more like the Deshaun Watson we saw in Houston, especially in 2020, where even though he had a bad roster, still put up tremendous numbers. And I kind of feel like the idea that things are going to be all right as soon as he starts winning, I think that's a little more complicated than that. I think it's going to be, there need to be time for this thing to happen, for things to kind of, settle into just football. Because, I mean, what we saw in Jacksonville was he was booed pretty mercilessly by those fans there. It's going to probably be like that everywhere the Browns play all season, especially when Deshaun Watson plays. And it's going to be like that for a while because this whole situation is still so fresh in everybody's mind. It's been all that really has been talked about, throughout the spring and the summer in regards to the Browns. So I think it's not just about winning. It's going to have to just, what play out over time, and time's going to have to take its course where, maybe it's not even until next year or even the year after that we can focus solely on Deshaun Watson, the football player, because it's just been such a high profile situation, a high profile story, and it's had a lot of vitriol behind it. And, just the way it's been handled by so many people. So it's just not a situation that's going to heal easily, if at all. And maybe one that I don't even know if like 1 or 2 wins will help. It's going to take a lot more time than that.
So this is from CBSSports.com along those lines. One thing we learned about each team week 1 of the preseason. The Browns' most hated team in the NFL. Watson took the field for Cleveland's preseason opener, completed 1 of 5 passes, 7 yards, looked rusty. Also being hounded by Jaguar fans who were relentless in their boos. Look, yeah, I get it. And the thing is, that's the way fans are. I mean, you're going to go in and you're going to get booed by opposing fans. Now he's going to get booed a little extra and a little more, with a little more, vigor to it. But you get booed when you're on the road. That's kind of life as a professional athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Friday could be a case, like an idea of what the Browns are going to get, this entire season and probably for years to come with Deshaun Watson. It's just, again, like I said, part of the controversy of, his whole situation, everything surrounding it. And I mean, his image is pretty much shattered at this point, and it's going to take a long time for that to rebuild. And the saying goes, you gain trust in drops and lose it in buckets, and he's going to have to rebuild all that trust. And maybe in some places, people are just going to hate him forever. I mean, there's no telling, what the reception's going to be like, especially when Deshaun Watson plays in Baltimore for the first time or Pittsburgh for the first time. It's going to be nasty environments. So the Browns and Deshaun Watson probably going to have to get used to that. They're going to have to, if they're going to go forward, they have to understand that, this is going to be, the expected environment for a while, at least on the road, and they're going to have to learn to deal with it and block out the noise if they're going to have success.
All right, Denzel Ward, heard from a little bit earlier, feeling pretty good, thinks he'll be back. Talked about the rivalry with the Bengals wide receivers that we heard, where the Bengals wide receivers said that the Browns defensive backs talked a lot. So we talked about that rivalry as well as the AFC North.
No, I mean, we just got to come ready to play. Like, those some great group of receivers over there in Cincinnati and in this league in general. So, I mean, just that competition, we love that. We embrace that, and looking forward to the game.
And I feel like corner wide receivers got to be one of the more talkative battles on the field. So are you looking forward to having to go up against Jamar for a long time?
No question, no question. Bringing that rivalry, bringing that competition level, and just excitement to the game. I feel everybody's going to be watching, and that's what we want.
Is that the secondary's best game of last year?
I believe so. Probably was. But I think we still haven't hit that level yet where we got to consistently play at that high level throughout the entire season. So that's the goal.
Denzel, this is year 5 coming up for you. You feel like the AFC North has changed?
A little bit. A little bit. I feel like beginning. I mean, it's still a hard-nosed division, but I feel like early on it was a lot more running. But I feel like it's starting to get to a lot more passing now, I would say.
Tim liked what he said about the consistency. That's going to be the key. That the defense got better and better. Let's see if they can hit the ground running here. They're going to need to.
Yeah, I mean, with Jacoby Brissett starting all these games, they're going to need to win. With the things to help supplement the quarterback, they're going to need to run the football. The defense is going to need to get stops, takeaways, basically just do whatever they can to keep the other team off the scoreboard. And I kind of thought it was interesting what he said about the Bengals, and that this is starting to become a little bit of a rivalry between their receivers and the Browns defensive backs. And the Browns, I feel like more than the other two teams in the division, are built better defensively to go up against what Joe Burrow and the Bengals do. Because, I mean, we saw the Steelers and Ravens really never have an answer for what Cincinnati was able to do through the air. And the one time that Joe Burrow faced the Browns last season, I mean, the Browns really controlled him and shut him down. They were able to force turnovers. Denzel Ward had that 100-yard pick six that really got everything going. Jamar Chase really never looked like himself. He had that fumble. And that was the first time, that was the only division game where Joe Burrow and the Bengals just weren't able to do what they wanted. They're up. You have to expect in a rivalry like this that, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow are going to get theirs. They're going to take a game or two, every couple of years from the Browns. It's just the way it's going to be. It's a back and forth. It's the way rivalries are, and it's going to be a very fun thing to watch play out over the next few seasons. And, every time the Browns and the Bengals play, that's going to be must-see TV. Jamar Chase against Denzel Ward. How often, those two stars go back and forth, and who comes out on top each time.
Tim Bielik from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. As always, Tim, thanks so much for the time and insight. Appreciate it very much.
You got it. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good day.
All right, Tim Bielik, make sure you read him, cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, other side of the break. An NFL breakout or bounce back candidate for the Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve. Because I am a future leader of this great nation. I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity. A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. NFL bounce back candidates. This is from ESPN.com. And they go, the Browns safety John Johnson. You see his PFF grade a season ago. What went wrong? Change of scenery wasn't particularly kind to Johnson. Stumbled out of the gate while adjusting to a new defense. Of his 222 yards allowed last season, 169 came in the first 7 games. Outlook for 22. After a few rocky moments early, Browns defense surged down the stretch last year, Johnson included. Given the talent around him, especially in the secondary, Johnson should thrive in year 2. Back anchor of a potentially elite Browns defense. Let's welcome in Jackson McCurry, co-host of Dawgland, as well as the Top Dogs podcast. Jackson, I kind of think the Browns and Joe Woods figured out how to better use John Johnson. I think that was the main problem. I don't think it was anything that he did. I think it was what the Browns were asking him to do.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like the first half of the season last year, there was a lot of new parts and pieces on the defense. Everybody was trying to gel and, find out their role, find out what they needed to do. And then I think it was after that New England game, everybody turned the corner, including John Johnson. And I feel like the biggest thing with him was they were playing him a majority at free safety, where in LA he was flipping back and forth between free and strong safety. And, coming back this year, Grant Delpit's fully healthy. You got Ronnie Harrison coming back. I would expect John Johnson will continue to get better and be that marquee guy that the Browns got in him when they signed him as a free agent last year.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they're kind of getting used to each other. There were so many new parts, 8 or 9 new players. So there's the chemistry there as well. All right, this is from the Bleacher Report. Projected winners of the key position battles for the Browns. So defensive tackle, they say Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryant. Wide receivers, they go with Donovan Peoples-Jones and David Bell earning the starting spots. And then the returners, they go with Anthony Schwartz as the primary returner. Let's start with the defensive tackles. It's probably a safe bet because Jordan Elliott looked pretty good, and they had been talking him up. Bryant is a former first-round guy and a veteran guy. Behind him, it's kind of younger guys, and Sheldon Day got released today. So those are probably safe picks. Winfrey, I think, will push, but you feel Elliott and Bryant pretty safe as far as the D-tackle battles?
Yeah, I think so. I thought Elliott played really well Friday night, and I just think Taven Bryan being the free agent acquisition, I feel like he's getting the first crack at being a starter. I would not be shocked if Winfrey and even Tommy Togiai are in the rotation, but I just feel like coming out the gate, you'll see Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryan there in the D-tackle position.
Yeah, and with a guy like Winfrey, you bring him in and passing down, ask him to do 1 or 2 things, and then, here, when you're in, do that. Don't make him think too much, because his pass rushing ability, you saw a little bit of flashes of that even Friday night.
Yeah, there was a couple plays where he just blew up the interior offensive line, and that's what you hope to see out of him. Just come in, certain packages, come in and be that guy that bull rushes the interior of the offensive line, but don't give him too much. He was a 4th-round pick for a reason. You don't want to put too much on him right away. That's why you have Jordan Elliott in his 3rd year. Taven Bryan's the veteran, the leader of that group. So I think they can anchor the position at least for the start of 2022.
Wide receivers, you don't want to get too excited about training camp because last year, Donovan Peoples-Jones was everybody thought it was going to be huge, and he played well. And then with Peoples-Jones, I think once Beckham left and then Landry got hurt, you kind of shoved him into the number 1 role, and he's just not. I don't think he was ready for that.
No, not at all. I don't think Peoples-Jones is ever going to be a number 1 wide receiver. I think he's best suited as a number 2 or number 3. Them adding Amari Cooper definitely eases him into that role as wide receiver 2. And then, what happens behind them is still left to be determined.
What are your thoughts of Bell? I know I kind of want that foot injury to be healed so we can get out and see him against, NFL quality defenses.
Yeah, you definitely want him to be healthy first and foremost, but everything in camp, going back to rookie mini camp and OTAs and everything, he looked great. Anxious to see him on the field. Hopefully it's this Sunday against Philly, but get healthy first and foremost. He can definitely be the slot receiver. I know people are saying he's the next Landry, but don't want to put too much on the kid right away. But, he could be a number 3, maybe even be a number 2 if Peoples-Jones doesn't pan out. But you see what he did at Purdue. Big game after big game, he was phenomenal. So really excited to see what he can bring to this receiver group. And hopefully he can be the next, Jarvis Landry or Joe Juravicius or insert ex-Brown slot receiver.
All right, returner. Jakeem Grant, that injury, it's brutal because there's not much there. They project Anthony Schwartz as the primary returner. I'm not sure. I think I want Anthony Schwartz to concentrate on being a receiver, and I don't want to take away from that. I know the speed it's intoxicating. Just your thoughts on returner.
Yeah, I think it's still wide open. I wouldn't give it to Schwartz. I know a lot of people want to peg him there because of his speed and his athleticism, but I'm with you. I think he needs to focus on being the wide receiver first and foremost and keep developing under Chad O'Shea and, the rest of the wide receiver group. But I think right now maybe Felton goes back to being punt returner, and then I think kick returner is wide open. They had Jamarcus Bradley there Friday night. Dearness Johnson's done it before if he's still going to be with the team, but I think it's still completely wide open as we head into the next preseason game.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I know it's tempting with Schwartz, but have him focus on that wide receiver position. He's key for them to get that right. All right, Jackson McCurry, host of the Dawgland as well as Top Dogs podcast. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will return some of the things we have learned about the Browns through training camp. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Jackson McCurry and I continue talking Browns. Let's take a look. 6 things we learned about Browns through training camp so far, Dog Pound Daily. Depth on the offensive line could still be a problem. Jackson, I get it. Second play of the game, you lose Nick Harris, and then you lose Deaton, and so they got to stop hitting the same position, and you'd feel a little bit better about the depth.
Yeah, man, it is crazy that, unfortunate for Nick Harris, because I think a lot of people expect him to finally take the center role this year in the second play of preseason. His season's done. And then Dawson Deaton yesterday in practice, it's a big concern at center right now. I mean, Ethan Posic's been a center in Seattle, wasn't the greatest, but, he knows how to play it. I think he's going to be that guy for at least the immediate future. But you worry about the whole offensive line depth. James Hudson did not look good Friday night. You wonder what Jack Conklin's going to be coming back from the patella injury. Jedrick Wills in a big year where he really needs to prove it in order to get a potential contract extension. So the offensive line depth is very questionable right now. But, we have guys like Hance and Dunn that have been here the last couple of years. So that kind of makes you feel good. But yeah, with the injuries starting to pile up, it's a cause for concern right now.
Yeah, and they're going to need that offensive line because they're going to lean on the running game. All right, number 5, a rookie, Jerome Ford, the guy from Cincinnati, can make an impact. That 41-yard run showed a lot of really good things you want to see from an NFL running back. There was patience, there was vision, and there was the ability to cut, and it was all on display in one run.
Yeah, he played phenomenally well against Jacksonville. You have to feel really good about it, so much so that I said on the Dawgland podcast that him, with the performance he had, and if he keeps it up, it's going to make it easier for the Browns to move on from whether it's Kareem Hunt or Dearness Johnson when the final cut downs come, because I feel like Jerome Ford has proven already that he belongs in this league, not only running the ball, but receiving. That kind of makes you feel better about whether they move Johnson or Hunt, that you have a guy that can make plays out of the backfield. Granted, it is preseason, but definitely liked what I saw out of Ford on Friday night.
Yeah, there were some things, and it wasn't necessarily the 41 yards. It was like, oh, he can do that, and there were a lot of elements of an elite running back that you saw. Number 4, Anthony Schwartz, still unpolished, to say the least. And again, I think that he just needs to have some success so he stops thinking about it. I think Anthony Schwartz is thinking way too much and not just playing football.
Yeah, he just, you have to take it rep by rep, target by target. He wasn't the most popular Brown Friday night with 2 drops, and, he's got the talent. He just needs to continue to develop. His route running wasn't the greatest coming out of Auburn, still not looking the best. His hands aren't sure, but you just need to take it one play at a time. We've seen what he can do. The Kansas City game last year, some flashes towards the end of the last season. Schwartz has the talent. He's got wide receivers surrounding him that can help him. He's got a great coach in Coach Osei. There is cause for concern, but I'm still a believer in Schwartz. He's just got to take advantage of every opportunity, but also take it one step at a time.
Yeah, I agree. He's just got to play better. This team needs him to play better than he did. Number 3, Josh Dobbs would be fine as QB number 2. Keep in mind, this is preseason. Now, Josh Dobbs, he looked fine. He looked good. But if you're telling me that he's a hit away from being my starting quarterback, I'm not there yet.
Me neither. He looked good. This is what a guy that's entering his 6th NFL season you would expect him to do. But by no means do I want to see him hit the field if Jacoby Brissett were to get injured. There's a reason why he's been 3rd-string quarterback in Pittsburgh these last 5 seasons. Dobbs has some talent. I loved him coming out of Tennessee, but I do not want to see him stepping on the field as the Browns quarterback anytime soon. Yeah,
not in a game that I really feel like I got to win. All right, number 2 is you can never have too many cornerbacks, and the Browns cornerbacks looked really good, and they didn't play either of their starters. And then number 1 was Deshaun Watson. Looked like he hadn't played in over a year, and that's undeniable. Let's start with the cornerbacks. In a pass-happy league, it's good to have 5 or 6 guys. There's a lot of guys that it's like, yeah, we can live with him if he has to play.
Yeah, definitely. It's not the Robert Jacksons of the world that we had to see at the end of 2020, but Andrew Berry knows cornerbacks, and it just so happens he was a cornerback himself in college. So he has added tons of depth to that room. Love what I saw out of Martin Emerson. AJ Green keeps thriving. Expect big things out of him this year. Greedy Williams looked good. And like you said, Newsome and Ward weren't out there, so you got to love the depth. And, when you have Denzel Ward, who's a top 100 player in the league, Greg Newsome, who had a great rookie season, can't wait to see what he does in year 2. You feel really good about that cornerback room just as much as you feel good about the running back room on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and that's huge because you're going to have to run after some elite wide receivers in the NFL. Watson looking like he hadn't played in a year. He did not look good. But, again, it's an awkward situation. He's coming to a new team. He realizes some of the issues that he's caused. Everything was sped up a little bit for him. I'm not as concerned. I will say it's going to take him some time probably to knock rust off if he is in fact able to play this year. So that I wasn't sure about that. It's going to take a little bit of time for him.
Without a doubt, he looked like a guy that hadn't played in 20 months in an actual NFL game. The environment around him wasn't the greatest. The fans were heckling him. He overthrew the first pass. Schwartz dropped 2. The second drive, Dearness Johnson fumbled. So things didn't go right, but by no means should people hit the panic button on Deshaun Watson. Granted, that might be the last time we see him on the NFL field for quite some time, but, things didn't go well, but there's no reason to cause panic. It's a preseason game.
Preseason game, and that guy is probably one of the top 10, 12 quarterbacks in the NFL. Jackson McCurry, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Jackson.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, Jackson McCurry, make sure you catch him, co-host of the Dawgland and Top Dog podcasts. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.